Now that we got halfway through the interview and didn't press record on the phone, we're gonna do take 2.
But now I'm more relaxed.
Okay, well that's the caveat.
Will you forehead bonk me?
Okay, reset. All right. Dang, that's frustrating, but we're gonna start over. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast for your first time experiencing it. It's our second because we didn't press record, but that's okay because today is special. This is my first ever podcast with a guest, and I couldn't have picked a better one to start it out. My very partner, my dearest Amanda Noël Dickey. So everybody please welcome Amanda. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to date an artist. And hopefully it's helpful. What is going on back there? Jesus. Somebody is digging a hole of china right outside our house. Anyway, this is Amanda. We're going to talk about what it's like to date an artist. I'm going to give you a little introduction, which I had hoped would be a surprise to her as I'm reading it. But she's already heard it once. We're going to do it again. This is Amanda Noël. She is a 24-year-old cisgender female from Kansas. Just graduated from Kansas University in the spring of 2022 with a BFA in art. She's also an artist. Her focus was in ceramics, but recently she's been sewing her fingertips bloody. She's consumed by textiles and garment construction. Anytime she's not working, she's just sewing away here at home. And she's very passionate about social psychology. She's interested in identity politics, Harry Potter. She's a Ravenclaw. She's an Enneagram 5, Wing 6.
Wing 4.
Wing 4? I said it wrong twice. She's introverted. She's a morning person. And she's mostly sober. She, in her purest personality, is a delightfully curious embodiment of blissful psilocybin. She loves all things nature. She has contagious optimism and potent ability to comfort those lucky enough to be granted an intimate friendship with her. She's currently a full-time nanny where she enjoys nurturing a darling infant and a golden retriever puppy in a cozy home up the street from where we live. We share a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I get to take over the spare bedroom, and she gets the rest of the house. And that's our situation. Is there anything you need to add to that?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, what do you think of me? Give me an introduction. Give me a description.
Okay. Alexander Clayton Eichhoff. Born and raised in Jefferson City, Missouri, in a family of 4. He's an Enneagram 3, Wing 4.
2.
No,
Oh.
it's 4.
Oh, I don't know.
As diagnosed by me. I'm the one more into the Enneagrams, not him so much.
Yeah.
Maybe some of you are. He spends a lot of his alone time creating or planning to create.
Thinking about it?
Thinking about it, judging himself for not doing it. And he is a very sweet and tender human, although you guys might not see all of that here on the internet.
Well, we're going to see more today.
Yes.
She's going to divulge all my information and all my sensitivities and all my vulnerabilities, so you better be grateful. Damn it, this is an inside scoop, and I hope you like it. Hopefully my vulnerability is worth it and pays dividends in your own insight.
And in ours. It's great practice.
Yeah, this is for us anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully you get something out of it because we're putting it online. And maybe you're thinking about dating an artist. Maybe there's an artist in your life that you got a little crush on. Maybe you want to make a move, but you're just not sure. You're like, I don't know about these artist folk. They're scary. I don't know what I'm getting into. I just don't want to do it. Well, hopefully at least this conversation will give you some reassurance. And if that artist is a good match for you, just make the move. But we'll see. Don't make your decision yet. Let's dive into some questions.
Let's do it.
Okay. Have you ever dated an artist before me?
I have not dated an artist. I have been around a lot of artists And I would say that several of the people I have dated have been creative people, but none of them have dedicated, for the time that we were in relationships, significant amounts of their time or energy towards creating or being artistic. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, technically I haven't either. Yeah, I think you're like the first artist.
It's hard because, like, what is an artist, right? Like, I don't want to discredit anybody.
Sure.
And a lot of the people I've been with have creative hobbies, and those were parts of them that I appreciated. But I think it's different when you begin to dedicate, like, a certain chunk of your time and energy towards it in a more structured way.
For sure. There's definitely distinctions. I think we're all creative people, but a minority of people choose this path of being an artist and dedicate their lives to it for a number of reasons. We won't get into that now. But what were your initial thoughts and feelings before we started dating, or as we were getting into it?
I would say the things that attracted me to you and the things that I really were falling in love with you about were also the biggest fears of mine. I don't want to say this is for artists across the board, but in Alex's case, he's a pretty high, low lows person, and that definitely plays into your creative structure of life. And I'm more of a neutral, balanced person emotionally, and I didn't fully know if I felt ready to be in a relationship with a human who functioned differently from me in that realm. At the same time, I was really drawn to it because I have a very creative, geared, high energy, always learning mind. So in my relationships, being mentally stimulated is really important. And you and your creative drive definitely provided that, because we spend a lot of time in really deep conversations about things and exploring the world through a creative lens, which really attracted me to you and also has worked in our relationship dynamic.
Okay, so basically what you were just saying is you were anxious about it, but you were also excited. And ultimately it comes down to me being a hot piece of ass that you really wanted a piece of. So there's your lesson. Moving on.
Your words, not mine.
We're going to talk about some daily life, being with an artist. And I'm going to ask you, how does my artistic mindset influence your everyday life together? And is there anything that you weren't expecting? Like, as we started dating, how has me being an artist and having that mindset influenced your lifestyle?
Yeah, I'm going to start from the back end of the question. I would say the only things I wasn't expecting were kind of some of the good things that popped up. I don't think anything bad has happened or unfortunate that I wasn't expecting. I would say the biggest surprise is how that dynamic adds to my life. So you being an artist and prioritizing so much of your time and energy towards creating has given me a lot of freedom to do the same without feeling like I have to justify that time and energy expense to myself or others. I live alongside of you and we both find it important, so we support and encourage it in each other, which is really nice. What's the top part of the question again?
Just how it influences your everyday life, which
Yeah.
you pretty much answered that.
Yeah, but maybe I'll just say one more thing.
You're allowed.
And I think it's that when we're like dreaming about our life together or planning or coming across problems, we very much come at it through a creative lens, and we problem solve together and we dream together creatively, and it feels like the boundaries of our life that we live in is almost like a rubber band, and we just get to stretch and move it how we want, and we're not really following a pre-planned life or falling into some of the well-worn paths that a lot of people might. How we make choices in our relationship and in our together life very much is influenced by both of our creative thought patterns and problem solving, I would say.
For sure. I think it's interesting because, I mean, you hear about artists dating artists, for sure. It's not like we're the first to do it, but I've always heard growing up that if I'm going to be an artist and pursue that, then I need to have a partner who is doing something a little more secure, financially and career-wise to balance that.
Yeah.
But we've honestly found a little bit more peace in our ability to create a lifestyle centered around our art and prioritizing that, which I think is more important than financial security, because it's just allowing us to pursue our truth, and sync up with each other and stay on the same page. And that's more important even than financial security. And then we'll just figure it out.
And it reduces the friction between us. It doesn't create that relationship dynamic where, like, I'm the serious one and you're the artist. Or you're the serious one and I'm the artist.
Right.
We both value that, and how we act it out in our lives might look different and might shift and change, but it's a part that we value about ourselves and each other.
Yeah. And like, I've heard of the negatives of artists dating artists. Like, we just talked to somebody the other day who was just like, there's competition and jealousy or whatever,
Yeah.
but I think us having different mediums helps that. We're also in different seasons of our art careers, which probably helps. So, I mean, there might be some things along the way that present challenges, but so far it's been more of a benefit.
I think we also just approach it with different lenses. We're very different types of artists.
Yes.
How we choose to practice.
That's true.
And I think for me that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that overall it's been more of a benefit that we're both artists than a challenge.
Absolutely. It's been a pillar in our relationship.
And maybe that makes this argument, or not this argument, but this conversation somewhat limited in perspective, because we're trying to discover what it's like to date an artist. But like, you're an artist too, so you automatically have a better understanding of how artists operate, even just with your first answer to the first question, understanding how artists work, and you kind of halfway knew what you were getting into before we even started, so that was an advantage.
That also has to do with my personality too, and
Sure,
just how
sure.
I
I'm
deep
not
dive
trying
into
to-
people. And
Yeah, I'm not trying to like...
we can't offer every
limit-
lens on what dating an artist looks like, but
Right.
we can offer ours.
Yep. And we're doing that. So, moving on. Have you learned anything about the creative process through seeing me work? Because in this podcast, we talk a lot about the creative process.
Yeah.
And prioritizing certain aspects of it, and just like building good habits, different mindsets to have. You probably don't listen to the podcast, but based on your relationship with me and
I
watching...
listen to the podcasts from our living room while he records them.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything that you learned from watching me work as an artist, just like behind the scenes, that has maybe helped you with your own process, or just like understanding the artist lifestyle by watching me?
Absolutely. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is we tend to get ideas about artists and what they are and how they work. Alex and I have very different artistic practices, like almost opposite ends of the spectrum. Through watching you work and also continuing and evolving in my own artistic practice, I think I've learned just how different people can create and structure their creative time, and that there's not like one right way. There's not a better way to do it. It's very personal, and people work differently, people perceive things differently, and you can give tips and tricks and you might catch people that understand that or don't. But ultimately, artists are very different, just like people are different. And there's not one right way to do the creative thing. So, recap of the last question.
You don't need to.
Oh.
Or what were you saying?
I was just saying what I've learned from watching you practice art is that artists are individuals too, and artistic practices can look really different from person to person.
Yes, true.
It just cut me off, so.
So, how do you balance... I already know the answer to this question pretty much, but how do you... Because this is probably one of the biggest concerns, I would assume, is like how you balance your role in supporting my work and critiquing my work, like being a part of the process.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question is, how do you handle moments of self-doubt? Like, you've definitely seen me experience and exhibit self-doubt.
How do I handle your moments of self-doubt?
Yeah, so the first part is like, what is your role in supporting me and my creative process, and like critiquing my work? Because you definitely do play a role I
Yeah.
know that because I ask you for advice because you're just usually the closest person to me.
Yeah.
Whether or not I listen is different, but maybe describe your role.
Yeah, so I think for you, I mainly play kind of a supportive role. As a person and as an artist, you have highs and lows, and I'm a little bit more even temperament of a person. And there's some artists that think everything they make is incredible, right? And you're not one of those. You're a really tough self-critic, and one is not more right than the other. But Alex doesn't step away from most of his work and just be like, God damn, that's amazing. So when you ask me for critiques, if I see something, compositionally or even just personally aesthetic that I think could be changed, I'll say it, knowing that he probably won't take it, but he's asked for my opinion directly. So I don't lie to him.
Are you sure? Are you sure you don't hold back because you know I'm gonna like spiral down? You say one thing and be like,
holding back lying.
That's the only part that I liked.
I guess
Now
it's
you just shat on
withholding
it.
the truth. I mean, sometimes I might, but not always. I mean, I'm not like handicapped by that. So yeah, I would say I play a pretty big like support role of just like I'm supporting you as a human, and when you ask for my direct advice about things, I can give that to you. I mean, I love your art. I love your art. And also in certain areas we have different aesthetics. So art is subjective, and yeah, I don't know. Now, how I handle your like
self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Okay.
Yeah, because that's probably the more sensitive
Yeah.
side. Like if I approach you with a practical issue that I'm trying to figure out, you could help me with that, and that's one thing. But
Right.
if I'm like noticeably, not even on a specific project, but maybe just overall existential self-doubt.
Yeah.
There's plenty of that.
Yeah, there is plenty of that for both of us, but for you more. And it's something that I've had to learn and develop a lot in our relationship and grow my own self because I have the tendency, I maybe have codependent tendencies emotionally. And so when you're experiencing existential self-doubt and things like that, I have the tendency to foresee it and try to fix the pieces before they fall, or once they happen to just try to fix. And that's not helpful for you. And it's not helpful for me, and it's not healthy for our relationship dynamic. So I've done a lot of learning in this area, and I think when he goes existential, I do my best to go low and to keep myself busy and to create and do things that bring me joy and peace and stability so that I can come to our relationship neutral and kind and not pull a whole lot from him, but also stand on my own ground and not spiral with him. Mm-hmm. Because if I were to spiral with you, that it would not be helpful. But it takes a lot of energy for me to stay on my own ground too. Yeah. So really what I do when you're feeling existential is I make sure I'm taking really good care of myself.
Yes, we figured that out on the trip.
Yeah.
For sure, because we were around each other 24/7 when we went to Ecuador for 3 months, around each other every single day. And she was trying to do all those things and eventually just realized, yeah, she needs to focus on keeping herself at peace because that's really the best thing she could do for me is to hold that solid ground, not to fix me because ultimately that's almost impossible to do, especially if I'm in a low, just to provide space, because she can comfort me. She has that ability, but it doesn't matter unless I'm ready to accept it. And a lot of times that's not the case, and I have to come around on my own. So yeah, it's like staying out of my way to some extent, not to make it seem like I'm like a tyrant, but I can be. But you do a pretty good job of, especially like recently this past year, not taking it personally.
Totally.
Because I think that was the biggest switch is like whenever your partner is struggling or upset or depressed or doubting themselves, on the outside it looks different from what's going on the inside because
I'm making all my own stories, right?
Yeah,
you're spiraling, you're presenting one way, but you're in your head. And then I'm taking that information and I have the tendencies to spin my own stories.
And sure, I could help you by explaining what's going on, but like when I'm in that situation, I'm not a good communicator. It's my worst self. I'm not giving you my best, highly communicative self. So you are kind of forced to make some assumptions, but you've been learning to not and just be patient. So that's a huge quality for being with an artist that would be beneficial is just patience in general.
Yeah. And ultimately, my responsibility is myself, right? And when you're having a really hard time in your life, that's not the correct time for me to ask extra of you, right? Like if you're struggling and now I'm struggling because you're struggling and now I expect you to caretake me, like that's all backwards. I need to take care of myself, and ultimately your job is to take care of yourself. And then when we're fit for human consumption and connection, we can come back together.
Yes, that's a good point. So this next question, it's less of a question and more of like a statement, because I feel like we've been talking about it, we're still figuring it out, so it's not even like there's like a definitive answer. We know what the answer should be, but it's not necessarily easy. So it's about establishing and respecting boundaries when it comes to each other's personal space and creative time. And we both deal with this because you're creative, you're a practicing artist, and I'm a full-time artist devoting as much time in every day as I can to it. So what are, especially recently, because we just started cohabitating 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago. So we're kind of learning this as we go and getting into our routines of our lives now, being roommates as well as partners. What are some things that have worked for establishing boundaries and about personal space and time, respecting each other's schedules and workflows?
I think it's an ongoing negotiation because what our lives are going to look like shift and change throughout the years in a lot of ways. But I think it's a negotiation and it requires a lot of compromise. Because in our specific relationship, I'm probably the person, not probably, I'm definitely the person who would crave more time, closeness, and connection than you. You're the person who needs more alone time and solitude than me, right? So to honor both of those things, I have to extend past my comfortability to give you that space and time. And then also you have to extend past your natural inclination to remain connected and close to me in the ways that are important. So I don't think there's one balance that works, right? Like through different times in our life that's going to change. But I think keeping an open line of communication is important because there just might be times, days, weeks, months. I mean, when you are booked up with projects and you're working, I just know that that's a season where this is a big pressure for you and you have to knock this out. And I prioritize my own tasks and things that fulfill me in that time. And then when I am having maybe a more emotional time in my life, or you just have extra time as far as projects go, you might try to pour into me a little bit more. So I don't think there's one answer to the question. I think it just requires ongoing communication and compromise for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the answer to the question, and just trying to share as much perspective as possible. Like you've done a really good job of letting me know when you have needs, and instead of expecting things from me or assuming whatever role I'm gonna play in your emotional well-being, you do your best to communicate that to me, and I try to learn and perceive that and try my best to like guess ahead of time. Like I've learned when we get really socially obligated and busy, especially like, you know, we have a lot of plans on the weekends or whatever, we'll make a point of setting aside time beforehand and kind of like getting ahead of the issue and like have a peaceful moment before we like host people or engage in a lot of social activities, because we're both introverts and that takes a lot of energy for us to socialize. Not making assumptions, staying flexible, because the schedules aren't consistent for the most part. It is changing, and it changes within the season, it changes within the week and the day. And I think one of our biggest strengths as a couple and as individuals is having our own independence and autonomy in our own schedule. Like we both have our intimate needs that we have to depend on each other for, with reasonable rights to that, but also understanding and having grace for the other person's time and space, to not expect it or force it out of them, and finding that balance.
Yeah, I think we're very much like two people with our own loves and goals and hobbies, and we're choosing to share a chunk of our life together.
Yes.
But we stay responsible for ourselves, even though we're vulnerable with the other and we allow each other to meet needs.
Right.
Ultimately, I'm responsible for myself and my feelings, and same for you. And we continue to negotiate as two humans spending time together.
And that makes the together time that much better.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that is commanded of the other person. And even though we might feel that way sometimes of like, oh, I really need to lean on them and depend on you and get some loving. And at some point I might feel, the right, and it's justified to ask for that, and same for you. But we respect each other enough to grant each other our own independence.
Keep the line of communication open. Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing negotiation.
Right.
Always. That's
a good answer. That's a good bit of insight, I'm sure, for anybody, not just artists. I think that's valuable information for, I don't think we're like pros and should be giving relationship advice elsewhere, but it's worked for us. And I think I hear a lot of my friends complain about certain things of their relationship, and I'm just like, if you didn't put so much pressure on your partner and you just were grateful for what they do give you, and you just found happiness in your own life outside of them, then you'll find happiness exponentially more so with them and through them.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. How have we celebrated successes in my artistic journey, and how do you navigate setbacks or failures as my partner and together? What does that look like for us? Failures and success.
Yeah.
Have we done that? Have we celebrated my successes?
Have you? No. So that's my answer to the question. When you have successes, your natural inclination is to move on and find the next best, better thing. And when you have failures, your inclination is to really punish yourself over those failures. Even though, like, cognitively, you're aware that you shouldn't be doing that, you still...
Both involve getting hammered drunk.
No, so this is what I do. When you're successful, I try to draw it out. I try to remind you, and recognize that, like, you just did the thing. Yeah. Like, this thing that you wanted for 6 months, you did it. You accomplished it. Mm-hmm. And I try to let that last an extra 30 minutes.
If we can make it to that.
And then when you have failures, I just take care of myself so that when you're ready to touch base with me,
yeah,
I'm a happy, stable person.
You just go hide.
No. But I might say something like, okay, I'm going to go quilt.
Yeah.
And put a little podcast in and listen to Hello from the Magic Tavern.
That is funny. Yeah, it's something that I definitely benefit from having you as my partner, or just having a partner in general. I think is super beneficial for these things, and it's like incentive to make that compromise. Like, being in a relationship with another human being is essentially a compromise, like across the board, for a number of different reasons. Because if you're by yourself, you can just do whatever the hell you want, and you only have to please yourself. But when you're in a partnership with somebody, even friendship, whatever, any relationship, you have to make compromises in order to coexist with that person peacefully. Mm-hmm. Those compromises are way more worth it when you have successes or failures, because you have somebody to share them with. It makes your successes more exciting because we can just embrace and hug, get hammered fucking drunk together. Mm-hmm. We don't really do that. But just, have peaceful moments of reflection, and it makes it more real. And then your failures, that's...
You can just share it. You can share the joy and double it, and you can share the burden and have it.
Half it, yeah.
Have it.
Have it when you have it. Cut it in half.
Yeah, split it. And double the joy, split the pain. That's not really always how it works, but let's go with it.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice sentiment.
Moving on.
All right, whose interview is this? Okay, what are you most worried about when you think about my art career in the future? And then what are you most excited about the future of my art career?
What I'm most worried about is that your mile marker of success will always move. And that you think you're gonna find happiness, contentment, joy around the corner, and every time you hit the mark you want, you just move it a little further.
No, as soon as I get 1,000 subs on YouTube, I'll be happy for the rest of my life, and then I won't need to do anything else. I'll just coast.
I don't believe him. The other thing that I might be worried about is, and any person can do this, you have the tendency to closely tie your own worth with your artistic productivity and work successes.
Achievements. Isn't that an Enneagram 3?
Yes.
I'm learning.
But what I'm most excited about is that we have endless possibilities.
High ceiling, baby. We talked about it before. Abundance all around.
Okay, I'm talking about like time and energy. I don't know. Okay, sorry. What I'm... We can do whatever we want. We can spend our time however we want. Neither of us, of course we live in the structures of society, but we both made cognitive choices in our life to break out of them in some way.
Yes.
And it gives us freedom in our relationship. It gives us freedom in our friendships and social circles. It gives us freedom in the choices we make in life. And yeah, it feels endless. There's no ceiling to what we're doing.
That's what this podcast is all about. Freedom in art. Fart. It's getting outside of the normal, what's expected of you, the rat race, conventional lifestyles. This is alternative lifestyle here at the Fart Podcast. And it is exciting because it is unlimited. Your ceiling is way higher. It's way scarier.
For sure.
Because it's risky. I mean, I haven't made that much money this year. Last year I made more money than I ever have in a single year, and it was all in like 3 or 4 months. This year, in 7 months, 3 of those I was traveling abroad, so it's hard to count it, but I still do. In 7 months, I have made a fraction, like 1/8 of what I made last year in half the time, and that's not math, folks. So that's scary. But you never know. I could still make more. We still got 5 months left. So anyway. Okay, so this is pretty much, we're getting down to it. Based on your experience.
That was mine.
You took it from me. I wanted it back. Don't be selfish with our air. We only have so much. That's not an abundance mindset, is it? That's scarcity.
Get back to your questions.
Okay. Bossy. Based on your experiences, just to sum it up, what advice would you give to someone who is considering dating an artist? Maybe the listener of this is already dating an artist. Maybe they're having troubles with their relationship with an artist. Maybe they are about to get involved with an artist. They've been seeing them work from afar and they're like, I want to see what that guy's all about. What advice do you have for them? You've already kind of said it all, but how do we put a bow on it and wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 different things.
Okay.
First of all, every artist is also just a person, and every person is vastly different. So if you're interested in being with an artist or being in a relationship with an artist, just learn about them as a person, because everybody's going to be very different, and learn about you as a person and make wise and discerned decisions about how you guys might fit together in a partnership. If you're dating an artist like my artist, my biggest tip would be to give them the time and space that they need and ask for, because it will pay dividends in the future time that you get to spend with them. And do a little bit of your own stuff. And all that time you get, make your own fun. Go hang out with friends. Goodness gracious. If you want to hug somebody, go hug your mom or your sister or your brother or your friends. Also hug your partner. But like, if that relationship is worth it to you for a lot of other reasons, and they need that time and space personally or for their practice, give it to them. And then the time you spend with them will be far, what's the word I'm looking for? Far more juicy. It's more worth it.
Yeah.
It's more vibrant. That's the word.
Oh,
the time you get with them will be far more vibrant if they get that recharge artistic practice time that they crave as humans. And that you crave. I'm talking about you right now.
I like when you talk about me.
I know you like when I talk about you.
That's potent advice, folks. That's potent advice for any relationship. Especially true for an artist, because we as artists have a lot of emotional needs. There's a lot of volatility just in our lifestyle.
They're sensitive.
Yeah, everybody's sensitive, but if you're an artist, it's probably because you're exceptionally sensitive. We perceive beauty and are able to create it because we are so sensitive to our environments and our inner atmosphere as well.
And you gotta be nice.
You do have to be nice, and that's why we have such a strong relationship, is because she's so nice to me. She's so kind. I didn't know I could be treated so nicely. You're so kind to me. Because I'm not always kind to myself. So I need that in a partner. If I'm going to have a partner, I need that, and she does a really good job, so thank you.
Okay.
So would you recommend?
Absolutely. Not him.
Spoken for. He's spoken for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dibs.
But anyone else?
Anyone else?
A few others.
A few others.
Whatever you want.
Maybe you're polyamorous.
Go for it.
Give it a try. Sounds hard. All right. If you have any questions for us, let us know. If you want to see more content like this, let us know. If you want to see more of Amanda's face, I'm sure you do. How could you not? I do. So leave us a comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.
Hit that bell. Is there a bell that you're supposed to hit?
I think it's over here. Or it could be over there.